transformers. That is actually loosened up some. That's loosened up quite a bit, actually. Here, we knew what we experienced out there, so we ordered our switch gear a year and a half in advance.
Yep.
And then paid for it. And then our electrician had a big enough warehouse, so he stored it.
Yeah, I remember back at that time when I was working in LA County, they were, I was talking to some developers, and they were stockpiling switchgear, whatever they could find, they would go as far as they can, out of state, out of country, just like, anywhere they could find one, they're picking it up.
Yeah, it's all because even if you didn't use it, you could sell it. Cause typically you get 1,000 amps, 1,600 amps, like that. And it's like I told the guy, "Who's buying it? Like, even if it's the wrong one, it's like we sell it for damn near $1. It's like gold."
At the time, there was, at least in where I was at, people were building ADUs all over the place at the time. And so you had like maybe 20 or 30 ADUs that we couldn't find them to get their switchgear. So we were trying to find different people.
Yeah, just to get a little electrical panel, like 200 amp panel or something.
Right.
Yeah, you just plug it. What's up, Andy? My mic is not here. It was muffled the past couple of times. Yeah, thanks, man. Check on that.
That's definitely.
So then it'll just come on?
So she has to select it. So once it's your turn, she'll select it.
Okay, so I'll just use it.
So funny.
That's okay. Oh, no.
I'm on the commission.
Hi, Jarm.
Hey, Jar.
1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2.
One of the guys is I know him forever. Casey. So I was talking to him today. He's like, our meeting was tonight. I can't be there. There's a couple things I really want you to come and put your feet up. He goes, but I got to go to council. Project. My dad is Ron Casey. He's a councilman. I never knew that. I never connected.
Right.
It was funny.
Isn't it weird?
Small world. Yeah, I never connected.
Well, you were one of them. Yeah. At least.
Yeah.
Anything interesting going on over there?
A lot of projects, actually. There was a lot of last month. Several multifamily.
Yeah.
Jane Nelson. He did a really nice design. I forget how many units was it, 80 something. Really nice. Architects and music and everything. And then there's some commercial stuff. It's kind of funny. I tell you, sure, it's great. I'm having breakfast with South College, Cal State, University.
Right.
Closed for 7 years. Just about 10 years ago.
Nursery site.
Assisted living.
Get that old lot, get something done with it.
Yeah, you could do it, but there's gonna be a lot of remodeling for ADA.
Yes, please.
What are you gonna do with it? So the guy decided.
It's a commercial nursery.
This thing comes.
Clean up the homeless stuff. Right there on Citrus.
Right.
South side of Citrus. Behind the church. Parcel behind the church that butts up against the flight control chambers.
Okay. Thank you.
South of Citrus.
You see that guy's face.
I think from your end,
The corner plans you for this one here aren't going to match what's in there right now.
Is that the one with the White House? The blue White House?
So you finally admitted it.
Ramirez owns that.
So we tabled
We
it.
have, well, you
That's at
typically
the
just follow
corner.
these. Okay. Okay.
New Jersey.
Yeah, because they got all type of electrical, mechanical, like.
It was like that flight control chamber.
Yeah, what the, that poor guy. What's the luck? Wasn't it lucky to be
Probably dead guy.
that guy that knows that building?
Right.
Hi.
Okay. Good evening. We're going to go ahead and get going here as we all come into the room. We did have a closed session. We've all been here for almost 2 hours now working on some other stuff. So I'm going to ask the city attorney to report back out on that.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The city council met in closed session regarding the two items indicated on the agenda. The first one was to meet with attorneys regarding potential litigation involving one case, and the second item was to meet with our council in connection with labor negotiations with our designated labor negotiators. In both matters, direction was given to staff. I have nothing else to report.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, Madam Clerk, I think we are all here. If you would commence with the roll call, and then from there we will do the invocation and pledge allegiance with Dr. Daly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Spencer Wong. Present. Councilmember Popescu.
Here.
Councilmember Rigsby.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Daly.
Here.
Mayor Duper.
Present.
We have a quorum. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Daly.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Excuse me. Thank you very much. Mr. City Manager, are there any items to be added or deleted?
No, sir.
At this point, we would like to welcome anyone who would like to speak on a non-agendized item to come forward. Check my list. I do have one person here, so if you'd like to come forward and speak, you'll be limited to 3 minutes. These are, again, for things that are not related to the agenda. And because of the Brown Act, there's a lot of times we're not able to comment on these items either. So, Ms. Lynn Campos?
Yes. So I understand. I would just want to say good evening to the council and mayor. This has been a long-going problem on my street for quite a long time. And I know that you can't do anything about it today, but I just want to bring it to your attention. Back in October of last year, someone had run over a fire hydrant on our street, and it flooded the whole street out. So water was just gushing down. I live on the corner of San Mateo and Rosarita. Water was just gushing down, and where I live at, I'm the catch-all. I'm right on the corner. The drainage is awful. It not only happens when it did that, but when it rains really hard, when they come on and clean the fire hydrants out, I get flooded out every time. And I have no curb on the corner, because after they have done the pavements, they don't take it down low enough, so it's just even. So there's nothing there to even stop the water from running into my yard. So the city did come out several years ago, and their fix was they put bricks on the corner to make it say, okay, here's your curb. If they fall off again, call us, we'll fix it. So when the fire hydrant did break, I did speak to John Trujillo, and he said that he was gonna bring out someone to look at the problem and try to fix the issue. Because where I am, like I said, I'm right on the corner, and I'm kind of a low spot, so it all ran into my yard. I had just put brand new sod in the front yard. It flooded out my backyard. I mean, it was like a river. I was the only one in the street that got flooded out. So, I mean, I do have pictures of the incident that happened. So, but anyways, I just wanted to bring it to your attention. So, but like I said, it's happened before, And I was told, okay, just put the bricks on, and then when they fall off, we'll fix it again. But John had told me that they were gonna have someone come out here, take a look at it, fix it so it doesn't happen again. I had a driveway put in, and my concrete guy actually, John told him it was okay to raise the curb a little bit on one side of my property, so if that wouldn't have happened, I would have been totally flooded out in the front yard. So, because the gravel and everything else came down. And I know I live on the other side of Barton Road, and we don't get as much attention over there as some of the other streets do. So, but thank you. Thank you for your time.
You dropped his card there, so. Thank you very much. Okay, unless there's anybody else that wants to come, Milford? No, okay. We are going to move on to our scheduled items, beginning with 2A, which is a proclamation for Donate Life Month. And I believe we do have a representative here, Katrin Mance.
Hold on, I'm short. Thank you to the mayor, to the council, and to the city of Loma Linda. My name is Kat. I am the mother of 3. My 11-year-old son, Christopher, was autistic. He was in the 6th grade. He loved trains and Batman, and his favorite color was blue. Unlike many autistic children, my son Chris did not shy away from affection. He was the first one to want a hug or to need to cuddle. And he would come barreling, Kool-Aid Man style, barreling into a room just to shout, "I love you." I really miss that, hugging my big little boy and hearing him tell me he loves me. Almost 7.5 years ago, he accidentally suffocated in his therapy swing in our home. He was rushed to Kaiser and then immediately sent here to Loma Linda Children's Hospital. I don't know what I would have done without the care, the support, and the dedication of the healthcare team. Unfortunately, after exhaustive efforts, they were unable to save him. But because of the hard work and care that they gave, he was able to save lives through organ and tissue donation. Both of his heart valves went to children under the age of 5. Christopher's liver went to a woman in Pasadena. Christopher's kidney and pancreas went to a man named Christopher, who just last December welcomed his very first grandchild into this world, which I'm pretty sure makes me a great-grandma adjacent. Mm-hmm. Christopher's other kidney went to this amazing little man named Eddie. Eddie was born with this plastic kidney disease, and at 3 months, he was put on a feeding tube, and at 10 months, he was put on dialysis, and he spent the first 3.5 years of his life in and out of hospitals fighting for his life. 7.5 years ago, he got my son, Christopher's kidney, and today, he is an energetic and active 11-year-old. He plays baseball and soccer. He's joined the Boy Scouts, and he's about to finish the 5th grade. Christopher will never again go to school or play outside, but because of organ and tissue donation, I have the great joy and pleasure of watching this little man live his best life because of my little man. Christopher used to tell us he was a cyborg made up of different parts and pieces. And whenever he was sick or injured, he'd tell us he could swap out his broken pieces for new ones. Well, as you can imagine, we never had a conversation with our 11-year-old son about what he would want us to do if he were to suddenly pass. But I take comfort in knowing that if he'd had the choice, this is the one that he would have made. His cyborg dreams are now a reality. There are still 105,000 people waiting for this gift of life. 22,000 of them live here in Southern California. Anything that we can do to bring awareness and education about the amazing gift of donation, we must do. Christopher is gone, but he lives on in others. And because of organ and tissue donation, he's not only remembered by his family and friends, but by the family and the friends of the lives that he helped save. And for that, I will forever be grateful. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
So there's no way we could ever follow that with reading this proclamation, but
No, there's like 72 whereases. It's terrible.
yes. But on behalf of the city of Loma Linda and us as a council, we wholeheartedly support DMV Donate Life, and we have the proclamation here put together and signed for you and others like you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
And I'm violating probably all kinds of legal issues to speak out now, but I lost a son a few
I'm
years
so
ago,
sorry.
and we went through the same process. So obviously
worst
I'm
club.
on board.
Thank you so much.
And Kat, I want to tell you, I'm probably one of the recipients of, I had a really good friend that was a heart and double lung transplant recipient years ago. So the extra time that you give to loved ones is unforgettable. And if there's anything we can do, I'm sure we all here support all your work and your efforts.
Thank you so much. You guys have always been incredibly supportive. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to item 2B, and this is a recap of the St. Puppies Day event that was held at the fire station a couple of weeks ago. So I know Amy and Chris.
Thank you guys so much for having us up here today. Just want to thank Catherine for her bravery tonight for saying that. Thank you for that story. We appreciate that. As if no one knows, my name is Chris DeYoung. I am a firefighter paramedic here for the city of Loma Linda. I'm also our association president. And we were asked to give a recap of a event that we did this last month. And as you may recall, there was a member of the community that came and spoke before you guys a few months ago and asked to do more community events, in particular a movie night at the fire station. After that city council meeting, Chief Harker contacted me and connected me with this individual, and we were able to put together a movie night at the fire station a few months ago. It was at that event where we got some feedback that a lot of the community members craved more of those kind of events. And Amy and I got to talking at that event, and I could see that she was compassionate about not only her community, obviously she runs the community garden, so she doesn't just love plants, she loves people and animals. And what better way for us to put together an event than to introduce Stella to the public? It's because of you guys that you guys blessed us with Stella at the fire station. So we're very appreciative of her, and we wanted to share that love that we have with the members of the public as well. So someone recently told me an unfortunate fact that there was 500,000 animals in shelters across California, and 100,000 of those may not have homes, and they may end up getting euthanized. So we decided to put on a puppy adoption event. And after Amy and I got to talking, it was history from there. And really, it's because of the efforts of Amy and her team of volunteers. They really are the unsung heroes here of the planning, all the hard work that they put into this. We're just happy to be able to say that we were able to be part of it, and we're honored to say that as well. I know that they put together a little presentation today some slides and some pictures, so I'll pass it off to Amy here. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a way we can get the presentation?
It's not, I switched it and it's not working. I was asking him.
Unplug and plug it in again. I can email it to you too if you want. That's fine.
Lynette, do you have a copy of it or no?
Were you gonna grab a flash drive or I can email it?
How big is it? May not go
I
through with you.
PDF'd it, so it's not huge. All right, so who here has a dog at home? Raise those hands.
Who has a rescue dog at home?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Can you tell us about your dog? Have Chris tell us about.
Oh yeah, maybe we should just talk about Stella while we wait.
Introduce us. We have not.
Presentation to our hero.
Well, this is Stella, as you guys know, and Stella has been a huge blessing to us. I know that we spoke about asking for Stella a few meetings ago, and ever since, we've welcomed her with open arms, and I could personally speak from myself that she's impacted my life. I know that I'm looking around our fire station and seeing the guys. She's bringing up the morale. She's bringing some calmness to our troops, really, and she just brings so much joy to us. So what we do is sometimes could be stressful, but you know, when we come back and you have a dog that's wagging her tail, ready for you to give her some pets and come snuggle up against you, it's something else, you know. So she really she's a great dog. She's a really good dog. Wish I could take her home with me all the time. And
So turn a right and come around
Come over
here so
here.
we can meet Stella, because if there's a group that needs mellowing, it's the city council.
Let me add a little bit to Stella. I'll give you a little, like bit of her background. So Stella was trained by Guide Dogs of the Desert to be a seeing eye dog. So they go through like a very rigorous training. They get these puppies when they're very young. They actually breed their own dogs. So they have years of genetic bloodline specifically for that job. So she was trained. She almost was going to get placed, but they noticed that she kept licking her paw. And so they figured out that she had some kind of allergy to grass. And because whoever she would get placed with wouldn't be able to tell if she has a severe allergic reaction, they failed her out of the program. So they don't like to say like the dog failed. They just say that she had a career change. So the lady that we got her from kind of made it her mission to take the dogs that weren't going to be able to be successfully placed to a blind person, and all of her dogs have gone to different fire departments, police departments, Department of Homeland Security, FBI, as comfort dogs. So she has kind of a cool story. She's not just some random dog that we picked up from the pound. She actually is very highly trained and super intelligent dog. So she's an awesome dog.
I watched a Netflix documentary on how they train service dogs, and that's like you just said. It's, you know, they don't like to call it a failure because there are some dogs that just don't quite fit, you know, depending on whatever. But some of them have like credible personalities. Maybe they don't listen as good as others, and so they don't quite make it all the way through. So then they have to go on to other jobs. But it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
We don't have those kind of criteria for city council. Yeah, we don't have to be compassionate.
We
and
should.
friendly, and yeah.
Okay, it looks like we're in business here. So anyway, thank you for the kind words, Chris. I appreciate it. And a couple of the other event planners are here with us today. Erin and Daria and Anne Marie couldn't make it. My name is Amy, and I'm really appreciative of the Loma Linda firefighters and especially Chief Harker for allowing events. I don't know when Chris said yes to hosting a puppy adoption event, and he didn't actually ask me what that meant or the details if he knew what he was signing up to do. But we had a really great time. So if we want to go to the second slide. I think you can like push the down button.
There.
Okay, so when we started planning, we said, all right, what do we need to do an adoption event? I've never planned one, but something impressed us to do this. So we decided to have an event mission. We came up with our event leader. So thank you so much, K9 Stella, for being our inspiration. The Loma Linda firefighters, and especially Chris, I really believe that they're the ones who made this event as special as it was. And then, of course, engaging our community members. And one thing, when we were doing some research on doing adoption events, we called a couple of the local shelters, and they said, you know what, Amy, adoption events are really, really hard to do. They said, we've gone to events where there's 5,000 people and not one dog gets adopted. So we said, challenge accepted. We're gonna get this done. So our event goal was we wanted 100 people to attend, and we thought with those odds, at least, you know, 1 or 2 puppies and dogs would find their forever home. So then if we want to go to the next slide. So then we said, all right, what is it going to take to plan a really successful event? And I don't know how, you know, you guys have come to have your pets, but I think a lot of times animals choose us. We don't choose the animals. They find a way into our hearts, and they know that they're supposed to be in our lives. So in order to make that happen, we said, let's have some activities that kids would really, really like to come and do. And then we'll tell the kids about it, and they'll come, and their parents will be there, and they'll fall in love with these puppies. So you can see from this list, we had quite an extravaganza. I will say we don't need to go through all of them, but what we did to make sure that we were engaging and have a really great time is we made bingo cards with all the different activities as a square. And then we said, hey, if you fill out the bingo card, you get a sticker. And then at the end, if you fill in all the squares, you get entered in for a prize. So the kids were absolutely determined to fill out those bingo cards to have a chance to win a prize. And even I heard that the adults were pretty anxious to make sure that they filled out their cards too. A couple other highlights were we did a creation station where some of our volunteers on the spot learned how to make balloon dogs. And that was really, really fun. And also everyone was really happily surprised that Starbucks came and that they actually did full-size drinks for free. Everyone's like, whoa, they're full size. So that made the parents really, really excited and happy that they were able to make it out. I didn't get a Starbucks because they ran out before I made my way over there, but that's okay. I also didn't get any puppy cuddles, but we'll talk about that later. So if you want to go to the next slide. So these are our event participants of how we made this event happen. We reached out to our local community, and these are all the organizations that hopped in saying we want to be part of this day. And we're really proud that our community came together to hold such a special event, not just for puppies adoptions, but for also creating community engagement and excitement. You know, the Altar Church, they're a new church in Loma Linda. They do a produce giveaway every Friday. Gable House Flowers is a florist who's my friend. We've united over gardening together, so she came out and taught people how to make bouquets. And we had a whole bunch of other activities that we just went over. So overall, we had a really great time, and I was just really happy with the support that the community wanted to offer us. And Erin is going to talk about the next slide.
All right, so the next slide is all the organizations and businesses that have donated to our event to make it successful. We're really proud of this turnout with prizes. At one point, I was like, Amy, when are we gonna cut off accepting the prizes because we need to finalize these things, but they kept coming and coming. Not only you could see some of these businesses are from Loma Linda, but they have extended to businesses out of Redlands, San Bernardino, as far as Yucaipa. So they came from like gift cards as small as $25 to one of our biggest one was from Freedom in Motion. They were offering 1 free week of summer camp and a free birthday party that was like $300 in cost. And then we also had Starbucks gave us a gift basket, as you can see in the pictures. And we have, for example, Paws of Redlands, they gave us a gift baskets of like dog goodies so that hopefully whoever adopted that day, they hopefully won those. And then Lowe's donated a lot of plants for us. Okay, we'll go to the next one. In terms of our expenses, we couldn't really do it without the Loma Linda firefighters. They're the ones who had put in the money to make this event even more successful. We needed event permit insurance. We had printed, like, for example, what Amy mentioned, the bingo cards. And then we also had added like little drawings for the creation station, our shirts that we're wearing right now. The keychains, I made that from my 3D printer. So all I asked is for the supplies and I designed it. So that's all 3D printed there, and then decorations. Next one. So impact and feedback. We got a lot more for this event than we thought. I know that one of our, Amy kept saying, I'm scared no one's gonna show up. I'm like, Amy, people are gonna show up. We have free gifts. Like, the most we could suspect is too many people, you know? So now from all of this, we have some attendees are now volunteering with Mary S. Roberts Adoption Center. And then to speak upon them too, they said that our event was the most successful adoption that they've ever experienced. And on top of that, we just didn't really have as much puppies because they were all adopted. We're like, we need more, we need more. So yeah. So everything that we did accommodated for all ages, from children to adults. And I think that with the prizes as well is what got people more engaged to do activities in the bingo cards. And then we had enough parking as well. Alrighty, I'm gonna pass it to Daria.
Did Rhonda get a puppy?
I helped a colleague adopt a puppy.
Okay, so now we're going to read some quotes from some community members that attended. Seeing these puppies leave with their new families was heartwarming and a reminder why these events matter. We had such a great time. When is the next event? What an awesome event to bring the community together. Please let me know if these are opportunities where I can help in the future. I've been looking for organizations to get involved in since moving here. We look forward to supporting the Loma Linda firefighters in all future events. This event was a perfect family environment where the whole family could participate. We are always looking for activities for our children. My son had a great time. He insisted on finishing all the stickers before we left. He said he hopes this event happens every year. Next slide, please. So just to recap, I'm thrilled to report that the St. Puppies Day was a complete success. We had a total of 450 attendees throughout the span of the day. Attendees participated in games, scavenger hunts, crafts, and they were both enjoyed by children and adults. We were honored to have Assemblyperson Garcia attend St. Puppies Day, showing support for our community initiatives and engaging with residents. His presence underscored the importance of community events in fostering connections and promoting local causes. In addition to fun activities, we also focused on promoting responsible pet ownership. The puppy meet and greet provided valuable information on fostering and adopting pets, and we are proud to report that several adoptions occurred during the event. Overall, the event was a fantastic opportunity for residents to come together, celebrate with their furry friends, and strengthen community bonds. Next slide, please. Finally, I'd like to extend our heartfelt thanks to everyone who made St. Puppies Day possible. A special thank you goes to the Loma Linda firefighters who went above and beyond in organizing and hosting the event. Their dedication and enthusiasm were instrumental in making the day a memorable experience for all of us. Thank you to everyone involved, and we hope to continue this tradition next year. Questions, comments?
sir.
I would add, since you were so good at it, maybe you guys should team up with the Chamber of Commerce and bring back the fair and the parade. That would be awesome.
How much support for that kind of event would we get?
Well, our checks aren't really worth anything right now, but
Decide pay raises or fair.
I second the fair. That's a great idea, and the parade we haven't had for years. But great job, you guys. Thank you very much.
Awesome. And I didn't know you made these. That's really good. Yeah, you guys did a great job. And with the t-shirts with Stella's picture, I was really impressed. Good job, and thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, so we've had the two best presentations so far. And now, yeah, we have to move into the work. So item 2C is a public hearing, and it's a request to change some of our zoning a little bit.
Hi, Mr. Mayor, I promise you this is going to be just as good of a presentation.
All right.
I want to introduce Gabriel Rivera. He's our new associate planner. He graduated from Cal Poly Pomona with a bachelor's in urban and regional planning. And for the past 5 years, he was working at the city of Laverne, so he's worked alongside a university as well. And he has a good number of years experience in planning. So Gabriel, on to you with our presentation.
Thank you very much, Lorena. Good evening, Mayor and Council members. So tonight we'll be reviewing a master development application numbered 2024-0016. It's going to be a request to allow for the operation of a wholesale nursery at 26660 Citrus Avenue, which is located within the high-density residential zoning district. This application includes 3 related components. One is a development code amendment to allow for the wholesale nursery as a conditionally permitted use within the high-density residential R3 zone, specifically within FEMA-designated flood zones as well. The second item would be a conditional use permit to allow for the wholesale nursery on the subject site. And then lastly, a precise plan of design for the conversion of an existing structure into an office space, along with associated parking, landscaping, and fencing improvements. So now we'll go into a little bit about the project overview. We are presenting this item to you today as there is a development code amendment, as I just mentioned, which requires both Planning Commission and City Council approval to get this project moving forward. On February 19th, the Planning Commission did review the project and unanimously approved the project and recommended that the City Council also do the same. So here we have an existing vicinity map. As you can see around here, oh, wrong one. This is the subject site we're looking here. This is in the R3 zone. It is bordered by a commercial C2 zone. To the south, there is a R1 residential low density zone. And then here we have the Seventh-day Adventist Indonesian Church, which is also an R3 zoning. The project is approximately 4.2 acres in size and has an already developed with 2 single-family residences on the site, a garage and accessory structures. All existing structures will remain. However, one of the residences is to be converted into a 2,790 square foot office space. And as you can see here in the site plan, we have the existing structures here with the proposed parking area, which I'll get into in a second. The second residence that will be on site, or that is on site, will remain as is and will be continued to be occupied by a mother and her daughter who are not affiliated with the wholesale nursery business. The site is not included in the city's adopted RENA site inventory list, and the zoning will remain high-density residential R3. However, because of the site lies within the FEMA-designated flood hazard zone area, developing new residential units here would be difficult and unlikely to meet current safety and infrastructure standards. For these reasons, staff supports this adaptive reuse of the site as a practical and low-intensity use that aligns with the general plan and zoning intent while acknowledging the site's limitations. So a little bit about the business itself. The wholesale nursery will operate from Monday through Friday from 5:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. and Sundays from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. The site is not open to the public, is not intended to be open to the public, and no heavy machinery will be operated prior to 8 a.m. Deliveries and truck activity are limited into the late afternoon, specifically between 3:30 p.m. and 6 p.m. in order to minimize any potential traffic and noise impacts in the adjacent areas. The site design incorporates 35 new parking spaces, including 5 trailer spaces and 1 ADA space next to the office, low voltage site lighting and security cameras, new perimeter landscaping, including oak, plane, crepe myrtle trees, and a bioswale for stormwater runoff. Additionally, the site will be compliant with all city standards for screening and fencing as well. And then here's a little bit of the landscaping plan that's proposed. So you can see the perimeter is going to be bordered by various types of landscaping, and the project site will be screened as well. And then here is the floor plans of the existing structures, specifically the main office floor plan. This is the structure which will be converted into the office space for the wholesale nursery. And then here we just have some elevations of the existing site. So these structures, as I mentioned, will all remain as existing, with just the interior of the office being for that conversion. So now I'll touch a little bit about the environmental review and traffic. So the project qualifies for a categorical exemption under the California Environmental Quality Act, Class 32, as an infill development. Also, a traffic study was conducted by the Gandimi Group, which confirms that the project will generate less than 50 peak hour trips, and therefore the project would not result in intensifying of the level of service in the area. The project is compliant with Measure V and will not negatively impact flow or circulation around the site. Then moving forward, this project was duly noticed to the public on March 13th, including postings at City Hall, the post office, the library, and the city's website. Property owners within a 300-foot radius were also notified. As of this presentation, staff have received comments from the County of San Bernardino Flood Control District, and due to the proximity of the site to the flood control channel, staff has incorporated them into the attached conditions of approval. Staff has also made minor syntax and formatting refinements to the conditions of approval to ensure clarity and consistency. In conclusion, the project repurposes an underutilized site, maintains compatibility with surrounding uses, and avoids the constraints of building housing in a flood zone. It brings a low-impact, locally beneficial operation to the area while preserving the character of the neighborhood. Staff and the Planning Commission recommend that the City Council approve Council Bill 2024-08, which is going to be the Development Code Amendment, Conditional Use Permit number 2024-0003, and Precise Plan of Design number 2024-0004. Thank you very much, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions, along with the applicant, Dan Carloni and David Milinarski are here as well to answer any questions for you too. Thank you very much.
All right, let's. This is a public hearing, so let's open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, please come forward. All right, we'll close the public hearing and turn to the dais. See if there's any questions or comments.
Well, when did this go to the Planning Commission?
On February 19th of 2025.
Okay, and you had unanimous consent that of support?
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Dr. Rigsby.
Maybe you said it and I wasn't paying attention, but what kind of plants?
Specifically in terms of the site, or are you talking about what are they going to be selling?
A wholesale nursery. So is it like, is this a place where they're just going to put pots of plants, or they're going to actually dig the ground and grow plants, or
Sure, it's going to be for the sale, but I'll let Dan, the applicant, who's more familiar with the actual sales and operation, or David Milinarski here. Thank you, David. go ahead if you want to step in.
Do you want me to do this now?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. David Molnarski with Transtech, 413 McKay Drive, San Bernardino, California. Good to be in front of you again this evening. But yeah, it's a commercial operation that's currently housed in the city of Redlands, and their lease is coming up for the property. I think they occupy some property over by Hangar 24, if you know where that's at, over by the airport. And they are a local regional operator that provides plant materials for various purposes. It's no retail sale. So it's box trees, box shrubs, ground cover, things of that nature. And as was depicted on the graphic, the perimeter, both to the west and along the flood control channel, those landscape features will be irrigated with a drip system. They'll be permanent, not planted, but in containers and so forth, like you see a lot of box trees, so they can be replaced when they need to be replaced due to health, things of that nature. And then the frontage along Citrus is going to be enhanced with the landscaping palette. That plan will be submitted to the city for review and approval, but very robust perimeter landscaping. And then the interior is just, again, for their clients and customers.
I guess a question for the planner. Let's say RENA ramps up their requirements and we have to put in stilt houses or something. How do we claw back this property, the use for the R3?
Well, my understanding from the applicant is there's the potential that in the future they may want to further develop the site into housing. So there may be an opportunity there. But at this time, if they currently occupy the site, it would be difficult with the flood hazard zone for a developer to come in and want to develop the area. But staff will work and the city will work with them to try to achieve a project.
That's why I mentioned stilt houses.
Right.
Any other questions? I know this has taken a little bit of time to put this together. This deal was started working on this, about a year ago? And I know there was lots of back and forth and negotiations and work that had to be done. So I'm very congratulatory on getting us to this point. So I guess I would look for a motion to support it.
I'll move the item. I have just a quick question. Are there any sales tax generated from the wholesale of selling these?
Yes, sir.
So there's some revenue. Okay, thank you.
Wholesale? Okay. I'll second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, I'm sorry. Motion is to determine that the project is categorically exempt from the requirements of the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to section number 15332, to introduce on first reading and set the second reading to May 13th, 2025, to adopt Council Bill number 0-2024-08, amending Title 17, Chapter 17.32 to allow landscape nurseries wholesale with a note of restricting the use to FEMA designated flood hazard areas, subject to Chapter 19.12, to approve the conditional use permit number 2024-0003 to permit a wholesale nursery as a conditionally permitted use within the high-density residential R3 zone with associated street and landscape improvements, and to approve precise plan of design number 2024-0004 for the conversion of an existing residence into a 2,790 square foot office for a wholesale nursery operations, inclusion of a new parking area, perimeter landscaping, and a new proposed fencing, subject to the findings and conditions of approval contained in the staff report. I will take your vote, please. Motion carried unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Mr. Mayor, just before I leave, I just want to thank Lorena and your city manager and your staffer, your new staff person. And we also worked with the fire department and some of the other departments, but they were, as you said, it took us a while to get here. I know the property owner, the UCR group, and then the operator who's going to be there are very thankful for all the time that the city spent working with them. So really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. We're excited. All right, moving on to our consent calendar.
Move it.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. I see we're finally getting a generator. That's good. They were hard to come by for a little bit. Yeah. Is it California compliant with emissions? Oh my, okay. All right, we do have a first and a second. I better just.
Motion is to approve the consent calendar as submitted. Please vote. Motion carried unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, back to old business, which is an update for our revenue generating ad hoc committee by Dr. Wang.
So we had a meeting this past month with a number of committee members present, including also Andrea and Andy were able to join. Very good meeting. Part was even laying the foundation for the revenue committee, looking at what's the vision when we're thinking of generating revenue for the city. One of the visions that they cited was really healthy living, active lifestyle, a health-embedded city. When they asked about the value, I think George from the managers from the hotel really pointed out what's the value that you really want in businesses and how you approach it. And there was a consensus that it's a sense of connection. So as we're thinking about businesses and moving forward, looking at faith, family, friends, and community, kind of that sense of connection. So one of the things they cited was, as we're developing businesses, thinking of solving a problem, a couple of the problems that were cited was no food options for students and employees, and the timing of that was lunchtime as well as dinner. And another cited problem was even the possibility of being the supplier for medical goods to the hospital. Because our two major targets that they were talking about is our employees and the patient families from the hospital side of things, and students and the employees from the university. So our two major targets were those. One of the ideas generated, which we'll come up with a next step, but was floated out there, was the idea of even creating a survey to find out what are the things that people really want to spend money on, what kind of food items that they really want, or what kind of equipment is needed. We also have coming up, we had a meeting with Esri, because coming out of the revenue generating committee was the idea of developing a storyboard for your website, so that when you're approaching businesses and you can say what the vision is for your city, what you have, what you offer. So Esri came out and did a meeting about a storyboard. How do you show what you are and where you want to go? And so it was very interesting, because they also use tapestry segmentation. So part of my research at the university is using GIS and linking to study air pollution. And there's this software that you can purchase. The Loma Linda has it, and I think we have it now too. I think we have that tapestry database. But basically, it really describes your community. They have 12 variables, and it will tell you what is the makeup based on these 12 variables of the community that you're living in. So Esri showed us what the workforce demographics, kind of the profile of our community looks like, which may actually be very interesting to have them even just come and do a presentation on who our population looks like. But our workforce, just in a nutshell from Esri, is basically 70, it's no surprise, is 71% 71% white collar, 13% blue collar, and 16% seniors make up our workforce here. We have two major industries, no surprise here. 30% of the workforce is healthcare, 12% is educational services, and then majority of the population, so 70% of our workforce, they drive here and they drive alone. only like 6% walk into here. So, and then our community, so that's the workforce side of things. The community side of things, they broke it down into three kind of categories. We are 20% of our households are bright young professionals. And I don't remember the tagline of what, but it's like younger up and coming professionals with kids. 15% of our population that live here is the golden years. So I'm not sure of what age category, but you can imagine. I'm not looking at it. I'm just saying, like, okay, the young and the restless make up another 15%. And then the median age is young. So I'm looking there, 36.2 years old is the median age for our area. And most people have a graduate degree, 24%. So as we're thinking of generating revenue and tapping in, I think it's really great to see Esri coming out and sharing with us what does your community really look like. As our next step is probably looking to make a storyboard, so working with Andy and Jarb as we make, and I think Lorena was there too, as we're making that story map for our website. And then there's the possibility, I think Andrea had a good idea of coming up with a survey to really find out where do people want to spend their money. And we're going to continue working with the committee to identify businesses. Andy had some great ideas of businesses, as well as the revenue committee had other ideas. So we'll probably begin to draft that out and then eventually make a recommendation for city council on moving forward. So that's it. Questions?
I always have. I'm part of the golden age here, so I always have questions. Okay. Yeah. I appreciate the reports. I would. I guess I have 2 points to make. One is I would like Esri to come in and do the presentation that you heard. That would be very helpful and useful. Especially since I don't know if I'm going to run, but I'm up for re-election here in a year, so I need to know who I'm talking to. That aside, the first point you made implied that there are students and citizens that need help with food. Unless I misunderstood you.
So it was like the problem was food places to go. Like when you ask the students, where do you go for lunch? They're telling me they $25 Uber over to Redlands. In fact, a presentation coming on the 22nd is going to be the students from Loma Linda University coming to tell you what they'd like to see or some of the challenges that they have in the community. But yeah, food is a big one for them. They said we don't have a lot of differing food options.
I was part of a committee, this is several years ago now, at the university church, and that was their focus, to set up food options for students during the lunch hour. Is that not working, or I'm trying to figure out how
I think it's different. Like, I think they want to go out to them, the younger generation, this is their entertainment. Like, I think it's different. I think they want to go out, they want to experience things if they're willing to pay.
Entertainment for lunch?
Yeah, it's different. They'll go to like they'll go to food carts. In fact, if you'll see that on 3rd Street, they made this food court thing or something inside. The students are like, we love that. We'll pay $25 to Uber to buy a lunch for $10.
Now it's for sure I'm part of the golden generation.
Yeah, we are different. Their drive is food. Andrea probably knows more. Their drive is food.
Did you just hear her say we are different? You said we. You included yourself with them.
Good point.
I caught it.
Good point.
If I could add just really quick, I think it actually addresses something that you asked, Mr. Mayor, Council, Andrea De Leon from the Chamber of Commerce. But wanted to add that the purpose for the survey would be to find out what each audience is looking for and identifying what those audiences are, because some of them might not actually be your constituents if 60,000 commuters come to town every day. Where do they want to spend their money? They might not be your constituents, but they are the buyers and the potential spenders to help us meet that tax obligation. So that's where that's coming from as well. Students, employees, and residents.
That makes sense. Thank you for the clarification.
I'm pretty confident that you have some representatives from the institution on your committee.
Yes.
So I do know, I mean, there have been plans in the works for some time to look at developing, number one, more student housing and also entertainment options and food options for students localized to the campus. So with that in mind, we need to make sure that they're partners with this in this conversation too. We're not getting ahead of anything they may be planning.
And Chandra from the government relations, she's part of the committee as well. But I think it's beginning the conversation, and you know, there's also wondering like how far out that will be, you know, in light of everybody's budget.
Yeah, understood. Okay. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much.
And we can invite Esri to come. I think it's really interesting to see. Yeah.
Or Ron would like a field trip if you could arrange that. Okay, thank you very much. We're moving on now to new business. 5A, appointing a member to the Historic Commission. Historic Commission.
Yes, she is.
Hello, I'm Jennifer Jones and applied to be on the Historical Commission.
Oh. I'll move it.
All right,
Easiest
second.
one I've ever had.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Well, we don't need.
Thank
Welcome
you.
aboard. Get to work.
All right, I will. Thank you.
No, you know, if sorry, we're joking, but if you'd like to say something or.
Okay, yeah. So I go by Jen, and my family and I are natives here to Loma Linda. I'm from the Stewart family, so my grandfather Willard was here, and my father and uncle William and Robert. So Uncle Bob, my dad, and I'm a teacher at Rev High School, and just been around and am interested in our city and being a part of it.
You have good family stock, so.
Thank you.
What do you teach?
I teach special education for emotionally disturbed students, and at Rev High School. So I teach English and history, but mostly how to hang out with people and do what they ask you to do without getting crazy.
Wonderful.
Well, thank you for your willingness to serve and to do this for us. We really appreciate it. You obviously come with background and knowledge of the community and our history here, so it's going to be awesome.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm happy to be part of it.
Thank you. Sorry you had to wait around the whole meeting for that.
It was super interesting, so I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, 5B, looking at a retail license information for tobacco sales.
Okay, Andy will present this one. You want to do it
Thank
here
you.
or there?
I'm good, thank
Okay,
you.
good.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Before you is an informational item in regards to tobacco retail license, also known for its acronym TRL. And along with this presentation, we are seeking the City Council's direction. For a brief background, as requested by the City Council in March of this year, we were directed to research the feasibility of implementing a TRL ordinance. Briefly, for some background, it's important to highlight that under the California Cigarette and Tobacco Products Licensing Act of 2003, any retailer selling cigarettes or tobacco products must secure a cigarette and tobacco product retailer's license from the state. This license must be renewed on an annual basis and is mandatory before beginning sales of tobacco products in the state. The cost to businesses is at $265 per location, and it helps fund state programs, including public health and education initiatives. Per the state law, as a quick reminder, those who desire to purchase or possess cigarettes, tobacco products, and vaping devices, you must be 21 years of age. And there's an allowance for active duty military personnel 18 years of older with military identification to purchase tobacco products. Additionally, I think it's important to see that there are some cities that have implemented a separate tobacco retail license to help cover the additional costs for code enforcement inspections, compliance, education, and the administration of such a program at a local level, should the city want to do that. And there are over 200 cities that are currently have currently implemented a TRL ordinance and program. While other cities have chosen to solely rely on a state license and the regulations of that program. Again, it's important to understand that the state currently has their own licensing and regulations in place. Currently, the city of Loma Linda, in regards to the sale of tobacco products, currently only requires a general business license, but does not specify the prohibition nor additional licenses to regulate at a local level the sale of tobacco products. Here's a brief overview of the city's current ordinance, and I'll just do a brief overview for you. As we can see, the ordinance was established to protect the public health, safety, and general welfare by prohibiting smoking in public places under circumstances where other persons will be exposed to secondhand smoke. However, the same ordinance aims to also strike a reasonable balance between the needs of persons who smoke and the needs of non-smokers. Within the current ordinance, the following locations are prohibited to smoke: public places, places of employment, multi-unit residences in the common areas, enclosed and unenclosed places of hotels, businesses, restaurants, bars, and other public accommodations. And number 5 is health facilities. Now, it's important to understand that although this seems all-encompassing, the same ordinance section does provide some variances where folks can smoke. These include residential properties in up to 20% of guest rooms in any hotel or motel, designated unenclosed areas in shopping center common areas, any private owned outdoor area, and inside a private automobile when a minor is present. With this background, I'd like to remind council that the city code again outlines general business licensing requirements for those selling tobacco, but does not specify any prohibition nor requires additional licenses to regulate the sale at a local level of tobacco products. So locally, when a business desires to sell tobacco products outside the state license, the city collects the following business license fees. And this is just a brief breakdown to show you what is collected here at the city. Again, these fees do not cover additional code enforcement or other local requirements that a city may desire to implement. Here are some considerations to review in regards to a TRL ordinance and program. Some potential benefits include public health and regulatory compliance. Again, this is additional enforcement of the state ban of flavored products and no sales to minors, making sure that there's a posting of the license, and making sure there's compliance there. These are additional inspections. Other potential benefits may include revenue generation. Licensing fees may help offset the enforcement and administrative costs. And there's also a community impact benefit, supporting efforts to reduce smoking and improving the health of the community. As for some potential challenges, there may be some administrative burdens requiring staff time for a small staffing. This may, again, provide an additional burden to staff time. The processes of applications, inspections, implementing documentation systems, enforcement regulations, and so on. Also, the enforcement costs, the compliance checks, depending on the amount of compliance checks that the city decides to move towards in a program like this, and the violations may require additional resources. As a potential challenge of this, there may be some current businesses that may be opposed or be in resistance to fees and additional regulations. And then there may be legal considerations as well, and those costs to ensure alignment with state and federal regulations. In this next slide, I want to make sure that the council is aware that should there be a desire to implement a TRL ordinance, staff would need to develop an ordinance, develop a fee structure, a violation structure, enforcement mechanisms, and also public outreach. There are also some alternative actions that the City Council can consider that could include up to banning future smoke shops, update the city ordinance should the City Council move in that direction. And then the other option that staff is providing here is maintaining the current practice. This does conclude my PowerPoint presentation this evening, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. And I apologize because there was a slide that was briefly skipped over. As part of the PowerPoint, staff did survey other cities, and we found some surrounding cities that have implemented a tobacco retail license program and ordinance. For example, the city of Banning, Beaumont, Pico Rivera, and Adelanto, you can see the fee ranges from $475 up to $595 per year. This does cover some of the administration, enforcement, the licensing program, compliance, documentation, retailer education, and so on. It is also important that you see on this slide that other cities like the city of Vallejo have instituted a fee program where someone who wants to retail tobacco products is obligated to cover a $2,900 initial fee license and then a $1,140 inspection fee. You may see that this is quite large in comparison to others. As part of this research, cities like the city of Vallejo are trying to cover as much as possible the additional costs of implementing a program like this that can be somewhat cumbersome for some cities. And then thereafter, the renewals for $542. And that does right now conclude my presentation. Happy to answer any questions.
Well, if nobody else has questions, I'll raise the same question I did when this came up earlier. To deny that this would be a valuable program in the city of Loma Linda would be like telling my grandchildren, you don't have to eat vegetables. But my question then and my question now, and you address this peripherally, but we're dealing with budget issues in the city right now. significant budget issues. And so it's great to say we want to do this, but the enforcement of it is a whole different ballgame, and you laid that out nicely in this last slide. What I need to know before I can vote for it, because I support it in philosophy for sure, but what I need to know is what's the impact on city staff? What does code enforcement look like? What kind of fees are we talking about charging businesses that would do this? I need specifics. Philosophically, it's the right thing to do. I have no problem with that. But I need to know specifically how this is going to work and how the city can handle it. Are you going to manage it, or Lorena going to manage it, or Dusty going to manage it? You know, I need to know details of just how this is going to work, and we need to fit this into our budget planning, which we're in the middle of right now. So philosophically, I'm for it, but I need to know more details about just how this would work in the city of Loma Linda, in the businesses that we have that are currently selling tobacco or tobacco products. So that's my comment. No question, unless you have a response, I have no question, but that's my perspective.
Just briefly, Mayor Pro Tem, bless you. I can share with you that there are under a dozen locations that are currently selling tobacco products. There are under a dozen stores or businesses that are currently selling tobacco products. There are 2 in the city that are full-time smoke shops. I can share with you that should the city council desire to do a program like this, it does require somewhat of a robust program and staffing, depending on how much enforcement we really want to do here at the city. And so staff can come back with more information, but this will require additional work.
And I guess I'm a little surprised. Let me form this as a question. Are the businesses, a dozen or less, that are currently selling tobacco products, are they aware we're talking about this, that this is an option? Because I'm surprised somebody's not here objecting to it.
I think probably quite a few of them are corporate level businesses. I mean, you're talking about the shopping.
Correct. You're talking like the
Stater
grocery
Brothers,
markets here in town, the gas
Walmart.
stations,
gas stations.
things of that nature.
I think they said there was 11 that sold and 3 major, like smoke shops.
Okay.
So 11 total.
I'm still surprised nobody's here saying, wait, you're going to tax us more. I mean,
Well,
tariffs is the big news right now, and this is the equivalent of another tariff from their perspective.
There are some.
And I just want to be sensitive to that, but I'm primarily concerned about what I said earlier, enforcement and the burden on city staff that's already stretched thin.
There are some speakers here that want to speak. I don't think that they're going to be businesses. I'm sure it's probably the supporters. Dr. Rigsby.
Yeah, I have a question. Who is currently empowered to enforce state law on this topic? So let's say we chose the lean approach and would just use the state law and not write any new regulations. What's to stop us from going and, you know, doing a sting operation with kids buying tobacco or whatever? Do we have that right under state law to do that, or does it require, you know, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms to come in to do it? I don't know.
I would defer to our city attorney. I don't have that information in front of me.
I'll jump in and tell you, we have that current right under state law. Law enforcement can do that. I would imagine our code enforcement can do that, basically because of that licensing requirement. And some cities, some agencies do those types of stings where they send in underage minors and whatnot. That kind of depends on how robust your public safety staffing is too. But that would, I was thinking of along those lines in terms of would that enhance our ability to do that? I'm just not certain. In my concern with what Dr. Daly said is that we are struggling and we are trying to figure out how to bring in businesses, and some of the businesses that we like to see are things like gas stations, things like that bring us in some tax increment, and a lot of businesses, and we kind of experienced this with the alcohol restrictions. They have a business model based on certain things, and if we start messing with that, it could send the signal, it could send a message that we are not business friendly, and we have to be careful with that. Now, philosophically, I would say I'd lean with you, Ron, on that. I just want to make sure we're not getting over cumbersome with our requirements. And then I had a question, but I don't know, maybe it's a question or comment. My understanding is there's only one city in San Bernardino County that does that, and and that's Adelanto. Is that correct?
No, in regards to the TRL.
The TRL.
No, there are over 200 cities.
Not in San Bernardino County. I said in San Bernardino County.
Oh, San Bernardino County.
cities?
I'm sorry. I don't have that number in San Bernardino County.
I think the presenters told us it was just Adelanto. I think, but I'm not certain on that. And no, I get 200 statewide. I get that. I'm just curious why nobody else is doing it. What are the roadblocks?
Having been able to actually speak with some of our cities in the area, those who have not instituted them yet, it's because of a lack of staffing and the costs that go with it. So when you look at the city of the enforcement side, and so when you already have a team or a robust team, you can start implementing things like this much quicker. And you're right, it's just a list of priorities based on the council's direction on how to approach this. There are some cities that are looking at this right now. I talked to even some cities in San Diego County, and they're starting to look at this. But again, it's based on the priorities of the city council, based on the health of their budget. And so there's a lot of variables that come together in regards to this.
I would imagine so. All of those were pretty consistent with around a $500 app fee, but a couple of those were what 2012 or 2009, and so I would imagine if you just looked at staff time, that's probably at least double or triple whatever that is now, whatever that would be. But yeah, we're going to call up public speakers here in just a second.
One of the challenges, if we do nothing, we got an F, right? Like
by who?
So did everybody else.
I mean,
we get an F.
We are a blue zone city, and we are like one of the worst in selling to underage kids.
Where did you get those numbers?
They did a survey. They came out and sold to the kids. It's in the binder. Did you get the binder?
Everybody.
Hold on, from a nonprofit organization, which I'm not trying to.
However, I mean, if we're gonna have bans on drive-throughs and we're not gonna have ordinance for smoke shops and how they sell, I mean, it's kind of like, come on, guys. It's a no-brainer. And if there's pushback from, I doubt an industry like Chipotle or another one is going to say, you're taxing tobacco, we're not coming to the blue zone land. I doubt they're going to say that.
I would agree with you, except gas stations are a different story.
Are we going for gas stations right now?
Well, I think there's one or two on the horizon.
Well, the 500 for a gas station might not be a problem. And probably it'll make them think twice about selling to underage minors. I mean, the problem is, if we don't do anything and we sit and do nothing and allow it to continue, how are we part of the solution?
But we're not talking about any type of enforcement here. We're not talking.
We're talking first about the ordinance to make that. That's the first step in making a change.
So what your goal is something beyond this, because right now what's on the table is just a licensing issue.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like that's what I'm talking is like we have to make the ordinance. Or whatever this is for the license that they do this. Yeah, that's it.
But that has nothing to do with preventing underage sales.
Well, it kind of sends a message of, you know what, we're going to be taking a closer look at you.
Who, though? We don't have those employees.
We will have to figure that out. We make the ordinance and then we figure out how we're going to fund. We're not going to solve all of it in one round.
Ovi.
Out of curiosity, unless I missed it, what does enforcement look like? We talk about a robust number of people. I mean, we have code enforcement that are able to inspect 25,000 homes and catch people doing all sorts of illegal stuff. We're only talking about 11 businesses. So what does that enforcement look like?
Thank you, council member. Some cities do as little as one inspection to see if there is a business license that has been posted within the business. And while they're there, bring in some educational pieces to the owner and making sure that they understand that at any time there could be a sting. And that's as little as one time a year. Depending on the city and the desires of the city council, it can go much more robust and require a lot more time. Again, some cities are taking an approach where there's a minimum approach and those who are taking like a max effort, and those who are probably taking a max effort are trying to recover those costs as much as possible, hence some of the higher fees.
But that $2,000 fee is just initial when you open up a smoke shop. The annual is only $500.
Yes, sir.
And 11 shops, $500 a piece is $5,500, which doesn't buy you a whole lot of robustness.
Okay, we do need to get to our public comments. So I have, if you haven't signed up yet and you want to speak, please do so in the back so we can make sure we count everybody. Brianna Ramirez.
Hi, good evening. Good evening, Mayor Duper and City Council. My name is Brianna Ramirez, and I am an intern pharmacist in the city of Loma Linda, as well as a member of the Coalition for a Tobacco-Free San Bernardino County. I want to start off by thanking the mayor, the city council, and city staff for your dedication to addressing youth access to tobacco. Many cities across California already have a tobacco retail licensing policies as a way to protect youth from the predatory practices of the tobacco industry. And I know there was some talk here about like what cities specifically in San Bernardino have the tobacco retail license, and so they would be Adelanto, Hesperia, Victorville, and Colton. The history of tobacco control suggests that each locality taking action to address the issues associated with tobacco sales in their community may enable others to do the same. My main ask of you today is that you strongly consider continuing to move forward with the process of adopting a tobacco retail license. It would be great to see Loma Linda continue to be a leader in promoting health and wellness in the Inland Empire and to inspire other cities to follow suit. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Let me ask you a question. Good point. Are you willing to pay additional sales tax in the city of Loma Linda in order to have the money for us to enforce the code we're talking about?
Yes. And any other questions, I would go ahead and refer you to my colleagues. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much, Brianna. Let's move on to Laura Cortez.
Good evening, Mayor Duper and the City Council. My name is Laura Cortez. I'm currently a senior at Redlands High School and also a current Loma Linda resident. As a young person, I am a tobacco's industry main target. I want to thank the mayor, city council, and the city staff for the time you have taken to look into addressing tobacco in our city. Once again, I am here today to urge the city council to take a stand in protecting me and my peers against the dangers of tobacco products. My main ask of you today is to strongly consider continuing to move forward with the process of adopting a tobacco retail license in Loma Linda. Thank you. I also want to say that for me, it's kind of shocking because at school, even when I'm in the bathroom, they're like asking me like if I want to buy off them, which is like crazy because that means that they're getting their stuff from shops, which I don't think that's, legal. So I think, I don't know, it's a real issue at school too, which is obviously affecting me and my peers. So I really hope you guys consider this. Thank you.
Not that we need to have an actual motion, but my view is that I have no problem with directing staff to move forward and give us a little more detail on what this thing looks like. I agree with Councilwoman Wang that this is the first step. Starting an ordinance is probably the good thing to do. As far as enforcing it, I disagree. I don't think we need to raise taxes in order to enforce something like this, but I think it's definitely a good idea, and I think we should move forward with it.
Do we need a motion and a? Yes, sir.
I'm having a hard time figuring out what the ordinance adds, other than a fee structure, which is de minimis, in the big picture. What does it add? Because we have state law. We can enforce state law. And we're talking about going to each one of these 11 businesses and saying, we're going to charge you $500 a year, and we're probably going to spend $600 collecting it. So it's not a revenue source for us. And we're using that as the scare you into doing the right thing. When all we need to do, these 11 places are going to talk to each other. Just do a sting. The word's going to get out. And that you can do without increasing the complexity of our code.
I think it's not.
What does it add?
It adds an image. I agree with Dr. Wang. We're trying to be a blue zone. Same reason we passed anti-smoking. Are we giving anybody tickets for smoking in public? There's a lot of people smoking in public. I don't think we've issued a single ticket. So sometimes you do stuff just to make a point. I'm not sure that any of those businesses are going to be hurting spending $500 to be part of the licensor. I actually think that if we figure out a way to pay for enforcement, it's even a bigger incentive. I truly believe that smoking is a major issue. I think pot smoking is even 10 times worse. And it all starts off with these little things, and it goes into stuff that's even stronger. And I guarantee you, pot does a lot more damage than smoking. So I feel like it's my prerogative as a council member to do everything I can in my own city to try to protect the folks who are most vulnerable, and furthermore, make sure that we make people accountable. Sure, can we get stings? Can we get the sheriff's department involved? Absolutely. But I think having all those tools will all be very helpful.
I still don't know what the ordinance adds.
I think I just explained it.
I don't understand what it adds. Does it add another law? Does it add, we double dare you to sell to a child? What does it do? The state law says you can't sell to minors. Why can't we just enforce that?
I think Dr. Wang summed it up when she said it's a first step. And I think what she and probably the other advocates are looking for is incrementally to a point where we outlaw sales completely in the city. I think that's the ultimate goal. And I think people see this as a first step to show that we're a city willing to go there.
I'm not going to go that route, but
what's to stop us from just saying, just like hard liquor sales, bye-bye? Why do we have to tiptoe into this?
Well, then we get into a whole other series of of questions too. But I think what's on the table right now is whether or not we're interested in this retail license ordinance, and if we have enough information or what we want to do, if we want to move this forward or not.
I'd like to ask for input from city attorney. Councilman Rigsby's asking some legitimate questions that I can't answer. What does this add to existing state law?
Well, it allows the local agency, the city, to enforce it in the event the city's not enforcing it or doesn't think it rises to the top of the list in what they need to do with the resources they have. It also helps the city regulate, know exactly where these places are. It does generate some revenue. But it allows the city to take enforcement action if the state is not doing it.
We already have that ability.
But I asked that question earlier, and the answer was we can enforce state law. And we need to find out if Phil's correct, whether it requires, a sworn officer to do it or code enforcement.
That I don't know, but I would think it's similar to like alcohol sales to minors. And that's done at the local law enforcement, the law enforcement level.
Law enforcement. I think there's a
I'm not sure.
possibility there, but I think the complexity is what's involved. So typically what law enforcement does is they use like their cadets or their explorers to go do that type of stuff, because you have control, you have the personnel, so to speak, you have the ability to do that. So the sheriff's department could already do that now, like you said, either alcohol or tobacco.
But does the ordinance just bring in a little puny bit of revenue to fund these things, or does it empower someone who wouldn't have been empowered under state law to enforce these things? And then are we willing to pay those people to actually go and do it? So, I'm not opposed to enforcing tobacco laws. If you look at my history, I've spent a lot of time working on tobacco issues. And but what I'm saying is I don't want us to just create another unenforced set of regulations and not actually do something. I think we can do something under current law, and I think that would make a bigger splash than passing some arcane code and collecting de minimis fees.
I actually think that's a good point. I do. I don't have the answer to that. As I said in my early comments, I support this. I am, the whole issue of tobacco sales to minors or majors or whoever, we don't support that. It's not consistent with the philosophy and the heritage of the city. But we've got to balance our budget, and from my perspective alone, enforcement is a major issue. I don't want to say we've got this law, but we're not going to enforce it. We don't have the resources to enforce it. And so if we have the state law that's already there, then we still need to deal with the enforcement issue. So that's where I'm at. So it's great to say, I'd like everybody to be vegetarian and eat vegetables and, run a mile every day and so forth. But at what point is it legitimate for us to actually develop a code that we don't know how we're going to enforce or if we can enforce? And that's where my dilemma is. I don't expect you to respond to that.
My point is that I'm allergic to bureaucracy, okay? So I see this code as just generating a new bureaucracy that will consume all of the effort in running the bureaucracy and not actually doing something about it. I'd rather just go lean and do something in a splash, get the news out here. tell everybody, all 11 of you are on notice. One of you cheated, and we ran you up, into the hoosegow. We took care of you. So I would rather see that because it's basically getting the splash without the bureaucracy to back it up, because the bureaucracy will consume all of the revenue and it will generate its own existence and it will try to perpetuate itself. So, if our end goal is to outlaw tobacco sales in the city of Loma Linda, we could do that next meeting. But are we concerned about the revenue loss? If we are, then shame on us.
Well, I will add that there's a lot of things that I don't do myself, but I support the individual's right to choose. So I think we have to be very careful. We're talking about one thing here, which is obviously against state law, which is sales to minors. And then we're talking about what adults choose to do that's their personal choice. So we have to be really careful when we start legislating.
But that's why I said, if people say this is the first step toward eliminating tobacco sales in Loma Linda, there's not a single person in the city of Loma Linda who smokes who's going to stop smoking because we get rid of Loma Linda sales. What we do is we bolster our reputation as a blue zone by not selling tobacco in Loma Linda. And I think that means something. I think that's important. But we're not going to do it by just taking a first step and creating a big or a small bureaucracy and just reduplicating what the state has already outlawed. I don't know what that accomplishes. I want to see action and not just legislation.
Well, you could ask the sheriff's department to put together a program.
Or we could do it with code enforcement.
I don't think.
Well, let's find out if we can.
Well,
before we even talk about it.
Understand the complexities there. We have one code enforcement officer. We don't have any of the other resources that.
I'm not talking about a self-sustaining, robust program. I'm talking about a splash.
I'm talking about a splash also. Those types of things take more coordination than you realize. There's more people involved than just one person.
How is that helped by creating a bureaucracy and
no? We're talking about two different things now.
And a fee charging and collecting bureaucracy.
Can they look and see, is there another alternative if you don't do the ordinance? Because the goal, I think, is to reduce that they're selling to underage minors. I don't think anybody has a problem. Like, we don't want that. And how do we achieve that? Is there other programs? What are they doing if they don't do the ordinance?
They're sending their law enforcement in to do those buys.
And then what?
And you cite them.
How often do they do that? Or do we have to pay for that? Or how do we?
Well, we'd have to pay for it because it would have to be done on overtime, most likely. I mean, everything we do like that's got a charge or cost to it. But I think the most appropriate agency to ask to do something like that would be the sheriff's department because of the resources that it would take.
I think the challenge is that everything comes down to the finances, right? And like, it's a very important thing that we want to do this, but when we're looking at paying employees and, overseeing something like this, it becomes, worrisome. But I would like to do something. To sit here and do nothing that we don't try to address this is not good.
I'm the one who's saying, let's just do something and stop fiddling with the laws. I mean, the laws are already there.
Yeah, but what do we do? If we do something, it costs money.
But if you pass an ordinance, it's the same money. Why don't you just do it without passing an ordinance that adds nothing? It adds nothing.
To pass the ordinance is cheaper, and pass the ordinance is probably cheaper than if we made a big splash.
So do you think the ordinance will do it all by itself with no enforcement?
No, we have to. To me, that would just be the first step. Like, you go down that, it's going to build on top of that. And that's the first step.
The first step toward what?
well, we'll come back to the next meetings and we'll see what we can build on that.
I don't know. I'm just opposed to bureaucratic dalliance.
Why don't we just take it a step further? Why don't you get rid of all city ordinances and let the state enforce everything? Why do we have to have a whole bureaucracy to operate it? Let the state deal with building and all the other issues that we're sharing. I mean, if we're going to really take that step, take that radical view, get rid of all bureaucracy and leave it at the state level.
Yeah, but all of our ordinances are a reflection of state building codes. We don't make our own city ordinances all the time.
Well, but pretty much every ordinance we have, there's a state ordinance that backs it up. Yeah. There's a state building code. There's all sorts of agreements. So we can't have it both ways that, oh, we're afraid of bureaucracy, just one more bureaucracy. Well, we've got a lot of bureaucracy. Some of it is good, some of it is bad. I think in this particular case, this is actually a very good bureaucracy. And I think it does send a message when you start licensing businesses and making sure that, hey, you know what, we're going to hold you accountable. And I think it's going to send that message. And I agree with the mayor. I think to try to do a sting, oh my gosh, that's you're talking about a very complicated process of having a lot of coordination with a lot of people. It's not simply just, oh, let's see how they get away with it, you know? Now, obviously, enforcement is going to still require some complexity. You know, what does that entail? You know, do you just show up? Does an employee sit there and watch a kid walk in? And, you know, there's some factors involved. But I believe that if there's enough evidence where someone says, hey, you know what, I just saw those guys sell to that kid, you go, okay, we have you as a witness. You're just like code enforcement. You go into someone's house and like, hey, you're not following the law. It's very clear. You parked here too long or your grass is too high. Same thing. There's enough evidence, Mr. Business. We just determined that you have violated our ordinance. You're going to be penalized.
You don't need the ordinance. It's already in the state law.
You do need the ordinance because the state's not going to come and patrol our city. They're just not.
We already established that local people can enforce state law.
But once again, we're going to make a decision. Do you want the cops to look for criminals who are breaking into houses, pull people who are speeding, or spend their time at the smoke shop? I think people are not going to be very happy about that alternative.
You just said it was a very important priority.
Well, not to that level. I think you could. There's a balance. There's things that we can do as a city. You know, we don't have to delegate everything to law enforcement. There's some things that we can do. I mean, if we're going to take that other job of getting law enforcement to do all sorts of things at that point. So
I just think that actually dinging somebody for doing it will have more impact on their behavior than just charging them a fee.
Could I make a recommendation? What about us trying to get somebody from, say, Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, or somebody to come in here from a law enforcement perspective and give us an idea of what they think is the best tool or how this should be run? Because my challenge with some of this right here in our data, and I don't mean any offense, but you will take offense to it, is we're getting all of our data from a nonprofit that's presenting to us that's very, in a sense, self-serving because they have a goal in mind. I think we need to get some outside guidance and information, whether that comes from the sheriff's department or some other professional that says this is the route. And we've heard from one young lady who's come and spoken to us many times about the fact that she gets approached with tobacco in school in the city of Redlands. Is that coming from somewhere in Redlands? Is it coming from a specific store? Where does this stuff all come from? And I would like to hear some I don't know, information from some of the folks that deal with this stuff. I don't know if you guys think that's a good idea or not.
I mean, it's not a bad idea. I'm still in favor of moving forward to bring staff over with an ordinance with a little bit more meat and explaining what does enforcement look like, what is the cost of it, and things of that nature. I know that, and I don't believe this is moving towards banning tobacco. If that's the case, that's not a prerogative. But I know that in certain instances, law enforcement has demonstrated with very good data that when you start making it very easy for certain people to take certain drugs, you're going to see significant ramifications. In this case, it's just health, but it could be a safety issue. There's a ton of data that the moment that marijuana was legalized in Colorado, fatality skyrocketed from people being under the influence. And there's plenty of data that certain substances lead to further complications. So I think we as a city should do everything we can to try to prevent ourselves in that. Marijuana is already legalized here. We're already fighting multiple issues as a result of that. I think we can do whatever we can to limit the sale of tobacco products to youngsters. And I don't believe the state law is enough, because if it was enough, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
I'm talking about local enforcement of state law. That's what you're going to have to do under the ordinance anyway. So why don't you just do it? That's my question. I want to just,
Because the state is not coming around and saying, hey, Mr. Tobacco Shop, guess what? You just broke the law and here's a fine. As far as I can tell, not a single tobacco shop has been fined in Loma Linda, as far as I know. But guess what? If there's an ordinance and we have an enforcement issue, I guarantee we're going to send a strong message when Stater Brothers gets fined $10,000 or $15,000 for selling to a minor. I don't think they are, but I guarantee you that some of those gas stations are probably cutting corners left and right.
When you make a motion so we can get
I don't know. I don't know that there's
Nobody seconded it.
I don't know that there's a consensus.
Why don't we just enforce the law?
I don't know that there's a consensus, but you did have
Mr. Mayor,
a motion,
we
yes.
do have another, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
We do have another speaker who just registered to speak.
Okay, Patricia Lopez?
Mhm.
All right, come on down. There is an ATF satellite office in San Bernardino, by the way. And Riverside.
Hi, good evening, Mayor and City Council. I want to start off with introducing myself. My name is Patricia Lopez. I am the Program Manager with the California Health Collaborative, San Bernardino County Tobacco Control Program. Our coalition representative, you've heard from him before, Israel Fuentes. He wasn't able to make it today, but he has provided policy packets for you in previous meetings. I do want to just start off with a disclaimer. Any information that I share with you today is just for educational purposes only. I'm not here to sway your vote or motion in any way, shape, or form. But I just wanted to let you all know that the California Health Collaborative is here as a resource to you, a resource to the community and city staff. I will stick around a little bit after the meeting and hand out my business card and hopefully be able to set up some additional meetings. There was a lot of great questions that were brought up today that we can address at a smaller setting, one-on-one, to give you all the opportunity to ask those questions, and we can have more detailed answers for you, again, purely educational based on what other cities have done and what we've seen throughout the state of California. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to come back to comments I've made multiple times now. I don't want my kids to smoke. I just assume there not be any tobacco in the city of Loma Linda. I wish everybody ate all their veggies and exercised and all that stuff. And Councilman Rigsby and I agree and disagree about different things at different times. His logic is solid, as hard as it is for me to admit that sometimes. But ultimately, one of our jobs in City Council is to try to set the environment and identify the core values that we believe in. That's one of our jobs. That's an easy mark in this issue. We also have to be able to figure out what we're going to do to enforce it. How are we going to pay for it? We're talking about all kinds of stuff, waving the American flag and everything. That's all good. We all agree on that. But nobody on this dais is identified how are we going to enforce it and who's going to pay for it. Unless we go with the sheriff's department, or if not with the sheriff's department or ATF, who's going to do it And how are we going to afford it? Currently, the city of Loma Linda has budget challenges, just like you and I do with our checkbooks. And I am all for this on a philosophical level. No problem. I doubt there's anybody in this room that would disagree with that. But, you know, I give my my kids are adults now, but I'd tell them what was appropriate and not appropriate. But I also made sure they knew there were consequences. I don't know what the consequences for this would be. I really don't. So we can talk about, you know, first steps, but I've done enough strategic planning to know first step is only a first step. You know, we can say we want to be the #1 city in the country, but unless we can define that and identify a strategic plan of how we're going to achieve that, it's all blowing smoke. That's my concern.
Yeah, and
So
we're
I am for it. I think all of us up here are for it. I need to see a picture of how this will work. That's my issue.
Agree with my motion, and you'll see the picture in the next meeting.
Okay, so
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Patricia. We do have a motion and a second. Let's just see if we have enough votes to move this. He's moving this to come
Motion
back.
is to have staff prepare what this ordinance looks like and what enforcement will look like. And the cost. No, we're not approving anything tonight. No.
Well, your motion was to create an ordinance and bring it back.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, but we're not approving the ordinance tonight. We're approving its direction to staff to bring back an ordinance and identify what it looks like.
That's
It gives
what we did last
an
month.
outline.
That's what we did last month.
Yes, but this one is a little bit with more meat on it because it obviously still lacks some of the details that we're looking for. In your case, you're trying to figure out a way to justify some taxes. I understand that.
No,
but
no.
maybe we don't
Give
get
me a
there.
break. Jeez.
Well, I'm planning to vote for this because then it will answer my question. What difference does it make?
There you go.
If I can, Mayor, just ask for a little bit more clarity and direction as far as, do we want to also see the proposed fees that would come along with this? Or is this just a draft ordinance?
Well, I think
I would hope that it outlines everything that's required to, if we choose to adopt it that night, then we have everything in place to adopt it. So you would have to actually draft the ordinance.
Just to give you guys a foretaste of where this bureaucracy is going, if you adopt a fee, at some point in the future, you're going to have to hire a consultant to make sure that the fee corresponds to the actual cost of enforcement. And you just go down this rabbit hole. We've been there.
I don't think you need to do that.
We've been there and we don't need to go there.
Hold on, the attorney wants to speak.
Well, I was going to mention something else, but Councilmember Rigsby is correct. To develop a fee, you can't just pull numbers out of the air. You have to show that it bears a reasonable
I
relationship.
disagree. I'm sorry. I mean, if we're going to ask for a consultant every time we make an ordinance,
You will
the
spend
city will go bankrupt. So I wouldn't go that far.
And that's my point. That's my point exactly. Thank you for agreeing with me. But the point is, you'll spend more money on analyzing this fee than you'll collect.
So before we get any further, I would throw out again, maybe we need to get more information that's not answering everybody's questions that are up here. I would personally like to talk to somebody from ATF or something like that that would give us some more perspective on how this stuff is occurring. And if they say, hey, kids are getting this stuff because they're buying it at school, that's pretty clear from, or I'm sorry, buying it at stores, that's pretty clear for me. If they say it's coming from off the street and from other sources, I mean, I would just like to hear a little bit more about where all this is going and whether or not, I mean, more from just the information of the data we got right here in front of us. So should we ask for more information, or do you want to start the ordinance process?
Mr. Mayor, if I might add, it appears that the enforcement has been a major theme. So I think it would be best, instead of asking staff to put together an ordinance, that maybe we look into what Hesperia, Adelanto, Victorville, were those the three in San Bernardino, what their ordinances say about
Colton.
enforcement. Because right now, violation of a city ordinance is an infraction.
It should be a misdemeanor.
Now, and that's an issue, it's probably a discussion for another night, but some cities have made all violations misdemeanors. Then you have some teeth, but then you also need someone like a city prosecutor.
Right, I was going to say, in that case, the code enforcement could not.
Yes.
You would have to be law enforcement.
Yeah, well, you can proceed civilly or criminally, but to get abatement orders and such, so that is an involved process. But so I'm not sure what these other cities are doing, and I'm not sure if their code violations are misdemeanors, which carry, then you have a lot of force behind you to seek compliance, because people end up having to make court appearances and such like that. We have an administrative.
I'm pretty sure that selling tobacco to a minor is already a state misdemeanor.
Right. But code enforcement's not going to be able to enforce that. It's going to be.
Well, I think adding a fine adds a lot. I really do. I think when the reason this is happening, because obviously nobody's enforcing it, nobody's taking the time to look into it, we wouldn't be having this discussion. And I completely disagree with the notion that somehow we have to make this so much more complicated. When I was on the council back in 2008, I passed an ordinance where we banned council members from lobbying after a certain time. We didn't have to hire an consultant. There was a fee associated with it. And you know who was enforcing that? The attorney. So there's all sorts of mechanisms without making this more complicated. It's actually quite simple.
What was the fee?
I don't remember. It was like, I don't know, $2,000 or even higher. I can't remember.
Who paid it?
Well, it would have been the individual. He would have been fined. We have fees all. You have to look at the code.
Fines are not the same as fees.
Okay, well, let's not. We're now trying to apples and orange and orange. Give me a break. You call it fines, fees, whatever you want to call it. We have fees and fines up to yin yang. There's people, we find people for having too much grass and the fact that it's a safety hazard. And if they don't respond to us, we find them another $100 for not responding to us. And then if they don't respond to us, we go and fix it. And then they have to owe us money because we went and fixed it. So we've had all sorts of structures in place.
You're right, but I got to change the word weeds.
Okay, weeds. Yeah, okay. Fine. One weed is someone's grass. But anyway, the point being is that we have a system in place already that allows us to collect fees. I don't think we need to make this that complex. It's fairly straightforward. There's an ordinance, it's a license, it's an additional license to the state. It enforces, it strengthens what the state does. Clearly the state is not working, so therefore we need to enforce it at the local level. If that sends a splash and it doesn't, then that's...
I said exactly the same thing. You just don't need an ordinance to do it.
Well, I disagree. You do need an ordinance to do that. Because without an ordinance, we're not going to, you don't, it's like saying code enforcement, well, I'll let the state decide whether you should park your car there or not. When you start giving someone a ticket, I guarantee you they're not going to park their car there. So there's some teeth to the fact that you put a fine. That's what the fines are for. There's repercussions for breaking the law, and hopefully it's a deterrent from breaking it again. And so if you give someone a penalty, whatever it's at, then you say, hey, you know what? Not only is it going to cost you some money, but now you're on the hook, and we're going to make sure you keep an eye on you. And next time, you're not just going to pay money; you're going to go to jail. That's the mess. You want the splash? That's how you start the splash. You don't say, well, we have an ordinance from the state can do it, we don't need to worry about it.
I never once said the state can enforce it. I said we enforce state law. There's a total difference. So, okay, let's pass a speeding ordinance.
You have that, and we
It's
decide
an
that-
ordinance?
Well,
Or do we
it's-
enforce state law?
It's
We pass this, maybe we set the speed limits, but we don't have a separate
we have
law.
parking. We have parking laws. We give tickets to people, and that
because
money
this-
goes to us.
Because the state doesn't have a law for parking.
Depends where you park. I bet you at the Capitol is the
I
state.
think, let's just go ahead and.
But anyway, I think
have
it's
some.
we already have a motion, a second. Let's just. There's no reason to
So
argue
you're going to
about
go
this. I've
for
already
the full
expressed-
ordinance, or are we going to
you know.
go for the substitute motion that we just compare the experience of other cities?
Yeah, I don't think I need to compare the cities. I have faith in staff that they can easily look at another city, look how would they do it, how it's drafted, come back with a draft, and then the three of you can decide that it's not needed, and we don't need to have this debate. It's going to be as simple as that. I'm not sure why is this so complicated.
Well, do you want to, let's vote on this motion, and then maybe we have a
I don't
substitute
even know what
motion.
the motion is.
Oh,
Somebody
let's
needs
just
to
do a substitute
read the
motion now, because the substitute motion is entered before you vote on the first motion.
Okay, are you introducing a
The
substitute
second,
motion?
the substitute motion is the city attorney's idea of starting out with comparing other cities' experience with these ordinances.
Can you combine them? Do both have them make the ordinance and have them come back with the city? I mean, it's a phone call.
Exactly. It's
No,
good.
mine-
Give me the report with the ordinance. I mean, it's
mine-
ridiculous to have it.
My motion is a first step. Yours is a second step.
I'll second it.
No, I think you can, well, okay, that's fine. You're seconded. I'm not, for this moment of argument, you're just trying to add more bureaucracy to this process. We don't need to have another meeting to have another discussion about what the cities are doing and how it's impacted. I think the staff can draft an ordinance, add to it a report that maybe adds some clarity as to what cities are doing and how much money they're spending and all that to satisfy any concerns about the budgetary. And then we can make a decision saying, okay, maybe that's something that we can do or we can't afford, and maybe there's an alternative as to how we can afford it. I don't think we need to split the baby by trying to kind of slow walk this thing.
Well, I do.
Well, that's fine.
All right, so we have a substitute motion and a second. So let's take a vote on that one. And that one is to get more information from staff.
And if the city clerk is on top of all of this, she's a lot smarter than I am, which I think we've already established in the past.
This is good.
So-
We haven't had good conversation like this in a while. This is good.
So we
Well,
have
it's just the two of us. It's got to be, you guys got to get involved too.
so
They're here to vote for my motion.
substitute motion and seconded to direct staff, to direct staff to look into other city ordinances and the enforcements, look into other cities who have these ordinances in place and look into their enforcement of these ordinances. Did I?
Their experience.
And their experiences. Okay. I will take your vote, please.
And remind me again, what prevents him from bringing that along with a
Yeah.
sample ordinance?
It doesn't tie them up writing a big hairy ordinance on the first step.
Motion carried.
I don't think you'll change your mind. And we're just going through a bureaucracy. That's what we're doing right now. It's called city council bureaucracy.
I am truly curious to see what difference it makes without spending all the time and effort to do a fee study.
So
I don't think you're going to see that because it's going to be, depends on what city decides to put so much. You can put all, like I said, we have anti-smoking law. Have we prevented people from smoking? Are we fining people? No. It's a matter of what direction and how much activity the council wants to put into it. It's as simple as that.
So
there's a lot of ordinances that are passed and are not followed.
I don't want to interrupt the debate that you guys have going, but we do have to dispense with that original motion Do you want to withdraw it since we had a unanimous?
A substitute obviates the primary motion
Without a withdrawal?
without a withdrawal.
All right. Okay. I'm telling you, this is fun. We don't get to do this very often. So, all right. We are done with our council agenda. Madam Clerk, which do you prefer next?
Mr. Mayor, we have report of council members and report of officers.
Sorry. Oh, no, I can't bring it back up. Let's see. All right. Moving on to reports of council members. Okay. No? Reports of officers.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I want to report that we will have the budget workshop next Wednesday, April the 16th at 6 o'clock in the community room. So this way, we will present you where we are at for the budget for next year. Next Wednesday, the 16th at 6 o'clock.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
I also have a report. I'd like to present a gift from our fellow sister city, the municipality of Punta Arenas in Costa Rica. So as some of you guys might not know, but in Costa Rica we have another blue zone. So that's what makes us relatable. And along with this gift is a note, which I've translated, so I'm going to read it really quick. It's really short. To the Honorable Mayor and City Council of Loma Linda, we hope you enjoy this pen holder souvenir handcrafted by one of our talented local artists. It is a small token of friendship and cultural exchange from the people of Punta Arenas. With warm regards, the Mayor and council members of the Punta Arenas municipality. So I think it'd be a great addition to the meeting room inside the chambers.
All right. Thank you. Was your dad involved in this one? Yeah. Thank you.
That's cute.
Okay, so now we can move on. We'll dispense with our council agenda and move on to the Housing Authority. Mr. City Manager, are there any items to be added or deleted there?
No, sir.
Anyone from the public wishing to speak on a non-agendized Housing Authority item, please come forward. Milford, this is, you only got one more chance after this. Nope. Was that you're going to do something bad to me or you just don't want to come up? Probably both. Okay. We have the consent calendar.
Move it.
First and a second on the consent calendar. Madam Clerk.
Motion is to approve the consent calendar on the Housing Authority agenda as submitted. Please vote. Motion carried.
Okay, any reports of members? Reports of officers? That would be random if we had a report of officers, on the Housing Authority or the successor agency. I'm just saying. Okay, we're going to dispense with that. We'll move on to the successor agency. Any items to be added or deleted there, sir?
No, sir.
Anyone from the public? Milford? No. Okay. No one from the public wishing to speak on a non-agendized item, so we're going to move on to the consent calendar there.
Move it.
At first. And a second. Dr. Wang, actually, I think, beat you. So we will call for the vote. Any reports of members or officers? I know I'm getting ahead of myself.
Popescu, I don't have your vote for the consent calendar. Thank you. Motion carried. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Seeing no reports from anyone, I think we're adjourned. Thank you.